All the characters in the story are over 18 years old. I'm 19 years old. My mother is 43 years old. She is 35 years younger than my father. We live in a large two-story private house with a garage and a garden, which is looked after by our 30-year-old gardener. My father is busy with business. He has a lot of work, so he is often not at home. It is not uncommon for him to leave for a few days, and my mother, a well-preserved, rather beautiful woman, becomes lonely and is a tasty morsel for outsider male eyes. This story, which I want to tell you about, happened during the next departure of my father. One day, I came home from college earlier than usual, and as soon as I entered the territory of our site, I saw that the door to the garage was slightly ajar. The garage was an integral part of our house building. It was possible to enter the house from it, and I decided not to climb the porch stairs so as not to unlock the front door, but used the garage and entered the house through it. As soon as I opened the door and entered the hallway, I immediately heard voices coming from the living room. My mother was shouting dirty words that I had never heard her say before. I quickly took off my shoes, slipped my feet into soft slippers, and almost noiselessly crept to the door to the living room, which was half open, and looked inside. I saw the gardener and my mother making love. The gardener and my mother were so absorbed in the process that they had absolutely no control over the environment, and it was not difficult for me to make a small but high-quality video recording. I stood there for a while, watching this spectacle. A few more minutes passed, and finally I coughed softly to attract attention and reveal myself. My mother stood motionless. She turned her head sharply in my direction and saw me. Her hair was tousled on her head, and her eyes were extremely wide. I almost laughed at my mother's disheveled appearance and surprised look when our eyes met. "What are you doing at home so early?" she almost screamed. "You have to be at college for at least 3 more hours." She quickly jumped up from the coffee table, pushed the gardener away from her and, hiding behind her palms, turned away from me. "What am I doing at home so early?" I repeated my mother's question. I was not shy about my words and expressions, considering them appropriate in this situation. "My father works at work, earns money for our family, and you cuckold him. I think Dad should find out about all this," I shouted, my voice breaking. My mother turned to me, and I saw the look of fear on her face. "No," she said in a calmer tone. "If you tell your father about this, he'll just be crushed. You know, it's very traumatic for him, and at his age it's fraught with consequences. If you hate me now, at least spare your father. It will come to a divorce." A look of horror crossed her face. She took a step towards me. "Oh, my God. You are welcome," she begged me. The mother took another step forward. "Nothing will be cruel if you don't tell your father about it." She stood in front of me with a pleading expression on her face. "If you want," she continued, "I'll talk to my father about buying that motorcycle you were talking about, or anything else you want." "Is there anything else I want?" I repeated thoughtfully. A plan that I had been hatching in my secret dreams for a long time immediately appeared in my head. My strongest desire, which instantly eclipsed all others, was that I would like to be in the place of this gardener, and now I felt that I was the master of the situation and could realize what I had dreamed of for so long. "Yes, Mom, I really want a motorcycle, but now, in light of these events, I want something else." With these words, I boldly stepped close to my mother. "You're crazy," she exclaimed indignantly. She was furious at what she heard, pushed me away, and went to the stairs leading to the second floor. In a few steps, I caught up with her. "Don't think this is a joke," I said boldly. "Everything I said is quite serious." "You can't be serious about this," she exclaimed, turning to face me. "I have everything I need for that," I replied, "and you will soon find out." We stood for a moment, looking into each other's eyes. I did not notice the moment when my mother realized that I was serious and that this act would really be committed. "I can't believe that you, my son, are telling me such things," she said, confused. "I haven't even slept with guys your age." "Now you have that chance," I said, grinning impudently. "This will never happen," she said firmly and turned away and went up the stairs. After taking a few steps up the stairs, she stopped, turned back to me, and, looking down at me, added, "Do you hear? Never." She pronounced the last word syllabically, with iron in her voice. "Never say never," I said. And if you're so cocky, then I'm going to have to tell Dad what you did to our gardener so he finds out what a nasty cheater his wife is. We have been living together for 20 years, and Dad does not know even the slightest hint of treason on my part. Besides, he loves me very much, and will he believe your words if I tell him that, for some unknown reason, you are slandering me and defaming my honest name? So think about it. No, Mom, you have to think about it, I shouted. And in order not to be unfounded in support of my words, I will show him a video, and I think after what he sees, he will have no doubts about the truthfulness of my words. Having said that, I took my phone out of my pocket and showed it to my mother. Did you record us on the phone? This is already blackmail. Choking with a surge of indignation and, partly, impotence, she said and, abruptly turning away, quickly left. We barely spoke for the next couple of days. Finally, my father returned home from a business trip. During dinner, when all three of us were gathered at the table, he started a conversation. So, tell me, how did you live here without me while I was away? Son, how are you doing in college and in general? Have you done anything interesting? He turned to me. You see, Dad, I replied, there's something more interesting that I have to tell you. Mom instantly tensed up, looked up from her plate and stared at me from under her brows. What do you want to tell me? Father asked. Dad, I began. While you were away, Mom and I. The thing is, dear, my mother immediately joined the conversation, interrupting me abruptly and not letting me finish the sentence I had started. Our son is doing well in college, and I promised him that we would reward him with a new motorcycle for this. You know, he's been dreaming about this for a long time. I think you'll support me and won't mind? Mom gave me her fleeting glance again, expecting me to condescend. Yes, Dad, I said as confirmation. That's exactly what I wanted to tell you, that Mom and I, well, we're with her. We talked about this topic. Well, of course, I agree with your decision, my father replied, especially since this motorcycle will be a gift for good academic performance. My father looked at me with a sense of pride. I noticed how my mother exhaled with relief, and I only smiled modestly outwardly, although in my soul I felt a real wild glee that now she was in my hands and would do whatever I wanted. After dinner, my father got up from the table and, heading to the bedroom, turned to my mother. Darling, he said, this time the trip was too busy and tiring, so I literally fall off my feet and go to rest. Okay, honey, go. I've already made the bed, and I need to wash the dishes and then I'll come too, Mom replied, and Dad left. His heavy footsteps could be heard as he climbed the stairs leading to the second floor. I continued to sit at the table, and my mother began to clean up the dishes. I still can't believe that you actually wanted to tell him everything, she said, putting the plates in the dishwasher. I can't even imagine what it would be like now if Dad found out about everything. I don't know what would have happened, Mom, but I'm sure nothing would have been good for you. But you made the right decision in time and thus managed to avoid unpredictable consequences. But keep in mind, you also unconditionally accepted my terms. Are you saying that now I have made a secret agreement with you? Yes, Mom, that's exactly what I want to say, I replied, getting up from the table. All my thoughts are only about you. After I saw you with the gardener. Don't remind me of that. My mother cut me off sharply. She took a couple more cups and turned her back on me. What are you doing? Don't you think about what will happen if Father suddenly comes back and finds us at such a moment? Now, Mom, I like this approach, when you think not only about yourself or about me individually, but you think about us as a whole. Well, that's it enough. We can't take any chances when Dad's at home. But you want to, I said, ignoring her protests. Having said that, I let her go and stepped aside. There was a minute's silence. But I can only come after he falls asleep, she finally said in a voice as cold as ice. I think he's already asleep, so I'll be waiting for you, I said. I couldn't sleep that night for nothing. I lay in bed and listened to every rustle outside the door. It wasn't long before the door to my bedroom quietly opened and my mother came in. It's me, she said softly. My father is fast asleep. And I came to you. There was a note of uncertainty and confusion in her voice. Great, Mom. I've been waiting for you. Close the door and come here. She let out a loud sigh and shut the door tightly. Maybe we'll postpone it for the next time. When my father won't be home after all, I'm worried and very afraid that you and I won't get caught. Mom, but he's fast asleep. Yes, she said, but in that case, I think we need to make sure of that again. Wait a minute, I'll be right back. He's asleep, she said. Great. When she left my bedroom, she turned off the light, and I lay there for a long time until I fell into a deep sleep. The next day, I woke up closer to lunch. How did you sleep, dear? Did you rest? Mom asked solicitously. Yes, it's okay, Mom, I replied. She looked into my eyes carefully. Don't you regret what happened between us? No, I answered briefly and affirmatively. And you? I don't regret anything either, she said, but understand if this continues. Mom, of course I want this to continue, I said impatiently, interrupting her, not letting her finish the sentence she had started. I didn't expect to hear any other answer from you, she paused. What about the father? I asked. Mom was silent for a minute before she started talking again. You see, son, she looked at me seriously and exhaled noisily, as if she had thrown a heavy burden off her shoulders. Our father is a very good husband and a decent man. She paused for a moment and added, by the way, he left this morning on business and will be back later in the evening. So we have time at our disposal? I exclaimed excitedly. How impatient you are, young man, she said, smiling. Yes, I am, and I hope you have securely locked and checked all the doors so that no outsider can interfere with us, for example, our gardener. Yes, son, I have provided everything so that we can be calm, and you and I will not be taken by surprise. I locked all the doors and put the door locks on the locks so that they could not be opened with a key from the outside. And our gardener, as of today, I fired, and now you can choose a candidate for this place yourself. Great, Mom. We went back to our favorite thing. And when Dad called and told Mom that he would be home soon, that's when we stopped. We managed to get ourselves in order, and Mom put dinner on the table. When my father returned, everything was as usual, and nothing gave us away. As time passed, our close relationship continued and grew stronger. But only Mom and I knew the secret of his genuine happiness.